Well, Fallout 3 we meet again after all these years. Yes, just like Fallout 4, I haven't really touched this game in a pretty long time. Mainly because when I first played it, I hated the ending, but I'll explain that later. So to jump back into the first Fallout game I ever played, I try to answer the question nobody ever asked. Can you beat Fallout 3 as a greaser? So to explain this one a bit, Fallout 3 really drives home the 1950s aesthetic. And one of the staples of that are greasers, unruly teens that get into rumbles in their free time. So the rules of this run is that I can only wear the tunnel snake jacket, and I can only use weapons that I think a greaser would bring into a rumble. This list includes and is limited to the switchblade, the baseball bat, the tire iron, and the lead pipe. Now with all that out of the way, let's jump into the run. I was born against my will and created my character. I named this guy Kaneki from that movie Grease. Then it was time to choose my special stats. Since I'm relegated to fairly weak melee weapons, I tried to account for this by relying on criticals. I learned my mistake from the Fallout New Vegas with only my fist run. Also, and what ended up being a bigger issue, the Tunnel Snake's jacket isn't really the most protective armor, so I dumped points into endurance as well. I became 10 years old, and it was time to negotiate the Radroach. I could go back and clip through the walls and play as a baby, but I'm saving that for a very specific run. So I just missed an embarrassing amount of shots and killed the roach. That one kinda stung a bit since according to my last video, there can be friendly Radroaches. Time flashed before my eyes and I was 16. I cheated on the goat because I was not gonna sit through that test, much like my actual high school experience. I was an awful student. For my tag skills, I chose melee weapons for the obvious reasons, repair, and lockpick. After all that, the run could actually start. Since one of the 4 weapons I can use is given to you at the beginning, I didn't have to go through the pacifist route to leave. Butch begged me to save his mom from some not-so-friendly radroaches. I am usually against killing roaches, but for the purpose of this run, I need to get that Tunnel Snake's jacket. Nothing else of note happened on my way out of the vault. I just walked out and waltzed my way into Megaton. I went to Craterside Supply to find myself a switchblade. Saw what I think is supposed to be a Fallout 2 reference, and was disappointed by the lack of switchblade. Although I did start the Wasteland Survival Guide quest. Apparently raiders have a chance of dropping switchblades, and there's a bunch of them at the Super Duper Mart. So I thought I might as well get some XP for doing the quest. I ran into Crazy Wolfgang as I left Megaton, and it hit me just how much I liked Fallout 3's minor interaction writing. Yes, does a lot of writing in the main story come across as ham-fisted? Absolutely. Some of it is downright cringeworthy. But the writing for dealing with just random people is really good. Also, despite being out of the vault for less than 2 hours, I already had the town company after me. I didn't even do anything other than walk to Megaton, but apparently that makes me a goody two-shoes that needs to get knocked down a peg. I was thoroughly disappointed by the lack of switchblades at the Super Duper Mart. I did go back to Moira and did the radiation chapter since it can easily be done within the walls of Megaton. Hey, that rhymed. I still wanted a switchblade since I intended for that to be the main weapon I use, so I asked the internet for help. Turns out there's one stabbed into a desk next to a computer in the Springvale Elementary School. Now, I know I could skip through a lot of this story by just going straight to Smith Casey's garage, but I had no idea where that was, so I actually needed the information from 3Dog. But to get that, I needed directions to GNR, so I gave 100 caps to Moriarty and I was off. As I was trekking through the metro tunnels, I came across some more friendly radroaches. I accidentally killed one because it scared me, but the other just walked by like nothing happened. It looks like they seriously fucked up some ghouls. As a joke, I went into the preservation shelter, which turned out to be a great idea since as soon as I got in, a pack of super mutants came by. These shelters may not have saved people from a nuclear blast, but it saved me from the results of it. The fight with the behemoth outside of GNR didn't go well. I tried at first to actually help out, but I was wearing close to nothing and was swinging a glorified twig, so I wasn't really effective at all. Eventually, I let the real heroes of the story take care of the behemoth. Thankfully, at one point, one of the soldiers picked up the fat man and sped up the fight a little bit. Eventually, an unnamed paladin took down the monster. Man, he would have been a much better protagonist than me. As punishment for being a bystander, I was set to get a new radar disc for Galaxy News Radio. I don't know if it was on purpose, but it seemed like every single super mutant was a trained marksman. I was constantly getting my head crippled throughout the entire museum. I picked up the disc and rode the elevator to the top of Washington Monument. My next stop was Rivet City. As I was making my way downtown, I stopped at the Jefferson Memorial to clear out the mutants. At one point while I was clearing out the sub-basement, I did this. This fucker scared me every single time I passed this room. Once I was done with that, I made my way over to Rivet City, waited for the bridge, and admired the fresh produce that was just sitting there on the table. Also, I initially wanted to find the android, so I searched for some clues around Rivet City before I got bored and wanted to progress the story. So it was finally off to Smith Casey's garage, or garage as the Brits pronounce it. As I was going to the garage, I made a quick pit stop at Evergreen Mills. I wanted to clear it out because of the fact that sometimes raiders drop switchblades, and at this point that weapon has become my favorite during this run. But the issue was that it breaks super quickly and the repair NPCs that I came across barely did anything to keep it in a condition that would have it be useful for an entire fight. But unfortunately, in the entirety of Evergreen Mills, I only came across a single switchblade. I understand that it's a low-level weapon and all, but I thought I'd come across a lot more than what I have been. I got a feeling though, the next time I play through Fallout 3, I will constantly find them, just to mock me. After that, I came across the garage where I, once again, came across friendly rad roaches. I mean, technically they were hostile, but they never attacked me. It's like I'm becoming a king of sorts. The Roach King. The Robo-Brain made me change my clothes, and I thought that this meant that I was going to fail the run. But I think it falls into the same category as the BB gun in the beginning. I can't progress this story without doing this very oddly specific action. But if you think this does mean I failed, that totally makes sense. Anyway, I put on the VR goggles and entered Tranquility Lane. I immediately went over and punched my dad and then punched Betty. For my crimes, I was turned into spaghetti. Man, I love this game engine sometimes. The unfortunate thing is I forgot to quick save, so I entered the vault for the second time, passed by the rad roaches again, and same as last time, put on the suit and the VR headset. I didn't want to waste any more time, so I just went into the abandoned house and put the code in to release the failsafe. I remember my first playthrough of Fallout 3 and thinking that I was so smart figuring it out, and figuring out that you're playing the Tranquility Lane theme. I got out, then I talked to my pop. I was fully worried that after freeing my dad, he'd attack my loyal subjects upstairs, but to my surprise he ran right past them. Looks like the King of Roaches is hereditary after all. So it was back to Rivet City, then back to Lincoln Memorial. I stabbed the shit out of Daniel Agincourt for being an ungrateful asshat. I went down to the basement to activate the flood control pumps. Dad spoke to me over the intercom and told me to walk all the way back and forth to get the fuses. I thought I did that. I went back up, had a conversation with him, and left to go back down into the sub-basement. I wandered around like a moron for far longer than I cared to admit. I even passed by the fuse box multiple times before checking the local map and realizing at no point in the conversation with my dad did he give me the one thing he said that I needed. So that just made an already tedious and needlessly drawn out quest even more tedious and drawn out. I did take my anger out on Garza because 1, I was annoyed, and 2, I really didn't have time to deal with his heart condition later in the story. Then the Enclave came as I was having fun playing in the sewers, and I watched my dad kill himself and totally kill Colonel Autumn. Running away from the Enclave was pretty easy. The only downside is that some of them took the page out of Obi-Wan Kenobi's book and took the high ground, to the point where I couldn't reach them with melee weapons. Other than that, it was fairly quick and easy. What wasn't quick and easy was the unskippable dialogue that you have to sit through every time Madison Lee interacts with the Brotherhood. This is where the writing of Fallout 3 gets cringeworthy. Like most throwaway characters have good and often funny dialogue, but the main characters are written like soap opera characters. Either way, I was off to Little Lap Lake to get the Geck. I made a quick pit stop at Rivet City again to repair my switchblade and try to progress my research on the android. This was the last time I actually tried to complete that quest. One of these days I'll actually do it. The trip to Little Lamplight wasn't much to talk about it. I walked in, got cursed at by a child actor that was probably having a lot of fun recording his dialogue, and I didn't have the charisma to get in, so I was off to Paradise Falls. Grouse was a dick to me, which makes sense, honestly. I was contemplating doing their quest, but I doubt a greaser would bring a Mesmetron to a rumble, so I just decided to kill everyone there. The one plus side to this was that one guy there was carrying a switchblade. I made sure to clear out the entire place for the XP and loot, and then I set the slaves free. Although I'm pretty sure only the kids from Little Lamplight can escape alive since their collars don't go off. Oopsie boopsie. I made my way back to Little Lamplight and entered Murder Pass. Super mutants aren't a joke. They really do pack a punch, and considering I'm wearing a thin leather jacket, I have close to no protection. So I was a bit nervous going into it. Also, for the third time in this run, I ran into more friendly radroaches. I think it might be a sign that I am the radroach king. I bet there's a mod out there where I can actually command an army of roaches. If not, I'd love to get big enough for a modder to make that for me. I had good reason to worry about the super mutants, especially in the vault. Tight corridors and a bunch of green monsters with guns and sledgehammers is a bad time indeed. As I was making my way through, I came across the whole reason why I hated the ending of Vanilla Fallout 3. Fox. Now Fox is a great character, but like Bethesda just created a huge plot hole and used the most lazy writing to cover it up. Fox literally goes, "Yeah, I'm resistant to radiation, so I'll go grab the Geck for you." Like, bet, cool, thanks, that makes sense. But then, at the end of the story, you're like, "Yo, Fox, you know how you're resistant to radiation? Why don't you go in the chamber and turn on Project Purity?" He's like, "Nah, your destiny here's to die right now." They even make a reference to that at the end of the game if you have the Broken Steel downloaded. He's like, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that, lol. I was just gonna tell you that your destiny was to die here." And they still give you shit for it in the end credits. Like, they call Fox a real hero and you a coward. I don't know, I think that's lazy ass writing here. This was going through my mind when all of a sudden,
think fast, chuckle nuts!
I woke up in a compromising situation. I talked to the robot, took the vial, and walked out. I'll ignore the fact that I died trying to leave because that would just be embarrassing. And besides, it's time for the end of the game. I waited through the unskippable dialogue yet again, and Sarah offered me power armor. I was offended that she would even ask. If I'm gonna end the game, I'm gonna do it in style, thank you very much. And end the game in style I did. I walked with the Iron Giant all the way over to Jefferson Memorial. I gotta say, even though it's really flashy, I love Liberty Prime. Like, everything about it. The propaganda he says as he fights, the fact that he throws nukes like footballs, absolutely perfect. Once inside Project Purity, we cleared out the rotunda, I sent in Fox like I should have been able to in the vanilla game, beating the game and proving yes, you can beat Fallout 3 as a greaser. I'm not even gonna lie, this run was not challenging at all. I mean, was I working with shit armor and limited melee weapons? Yeah, but at no point did I feel like I was at a huge disadvantage at all. That being said, it was a lot of fun, and I'm already thinking about doing this in New Vegas with maybe a bit altered rules. We'll see. Anyway, thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe if you feel so inclined, and I'll see you in the next video. This has been Red Handed Gaming. Stay safe, and God bless.